Hello students. Today our topic will be learning. Part 1. I am Dr. Preeti Mathur, Associate Professor, Department of Zoology, SPC, Government College Ajmer. Viewers and students, learning is the process of acquiring new understanding, knowledge, behaviors, skills, values, attitudes, and preferences. The ability to learn is possessed by humans, animals, and some machines. There is also evidence for some kind of learning in certain plants. Some learning is immediate, induced by a single event, for example, being burned by a hot stove. But much skill and knowledge accumulates from repeated experiences. Now, in this slide, you are seeing two coins. This is actually the learning and memory. If you see the 1 rupee coin from both the sides, you know, students, you have seen it several times. This coin you have seen various times. But if I show this coin to you from another side where 1 rupee is not written, still you have it in your memory and you can recognize that this is 1 rupee coin, right? So the changes induced by learning often last a lifetime, and it is hard to distinguish learned material that seems to be lost from that which cannot be retrieved. Human learning starts at birth. It might even start before and continues until death as a consequence of ongoing interactions between people and their environment. The nature and processes involved in learning are studied in many fields, including educational psychology, neuropsychology, experimental psychology, and pedagogy. Research in such fields has led to the identification of various sorts of learning. For example, learning may occur as a result of habituation or classical conditioning, operant conditioning, or as a result of more complex activities such as play, seen only in relatively intelligent animals, etc. etc. Learning may occur consciously or without conscious. So here, this learning is unconscious learning. You never thought of learning it and still you have learned it. So this learning is unconscious learning, right? Now, learning and memory. Learning is acquiring new or modifying existing knowledge, behaviors, skills, and values. So we are studying the definitions of learning and memory. First definition I just told you just now, and my second definition will be a characteristic of animals and particularly of humans is the ability to alter behavior on the basis of experience. Learning is acquisition of the information that makes this possible, and memory is the retention and storage of that information. So, memory is the processes by which information is encoded, stored, and retrieved. So students, in this slide you can see different types of learning. First one is simple non-associative learning. It is by single stimulus. Then there is habituation. Thirdly, sensitization. Then associative learning. Classical conditioning, operant conditioning. सो डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ लर्निंग में नॉन एसोसिएटिव लर्निंग आ जाता है, जिसमें कि हैबिचुएशन आ जाता है, सेंसिटाइजेशन आ जाता है, और एक्टिव लर्निंग में वो दूसरी प्रकार की होती है, और तीसरी प्रकार की एसोसिएटिव लर्निंग होती है, जिसमें कि आ जाता है अपने ऑपरेंट कंडीशनिंग, क्लासिकल कंडीशनिंग, ऑब्जर्वेशनल लर्निंग एंड इम्प्रिंटिंग. सो दीज फोर आर एसोसिएटिव लर्निंग. Now, associative learning. It is the process by which an association between two stimuli or a behavior and a stimulus is learned. Classical associative learning, in this there are two stimuli working, right? And operant associative learning में stimuli and behavior both are included. Now, associative learning क्या है? तो associative learning is the process by which a person or animal learns an association between two stimuli or events. In classical conditioning, a previously neutral stimulus is repeatedly paired with a reflex eliciting stimulus until eventually the neutral stimulus elicits a response on its own. In operant conditioning, a behavior that is reinforced or punished in the presence of a stimulus becomes more or less likely to occur in the presence of that stimulus. And secondly, the very important one is the operant conditioning. In operant conditioning, a reinforcement, that is by reward, or instead a punishment, is given after a given behavior. Change the frequency and or form of that behavior. Stimulus present when the behavior consequences occur come to control these behavior modifications. Now, classical conditioning involves repeatedly pairing an unconditioned stimulus which evokes a reflective response with another neutral stimulus which does not normally evoke the response. And so we can also call it as unconditioned response. Following conditioning, the response occurs both to the US and to the other neutral stimulus, now referred to as the conditioned stimulus. The response to the conditioned stimulus is termed as conditional response. So this is Pavlov experiment which was held in Russia. Now this slide आप लोग देख सकते हो पावलोव एक्सपेरिमेंट दे रखा है, शो कर रखा है इसमें. एंड इन दिस हाउ द डॉग ट्रेनिंग वर्क्स. पहला पिक्चर है, इसमें आप देख रहे हैं बिफोर कंडीशनिंग. यहाँ द फूड इज केप्ट, द रिस्पॉन्स ऑफ द डॉग इज दैट द टंग इज आउट एंड सम सलाइवा इज being. So this is salivation and unconditioned response. In the second picture, before conditioning, in this there is a bell shown, and then the response of the dog was not salivation. So the bell is neutral stimulus and the saliva is not coming out from the dog's mouth, so no salivation here and no conditioned response over here. In the third picture, you can see during conditioning, say there is bell when it is ringing and the food is also there. The response of the dog is that there is salivation because he is learning. It is an unconditioned response and he is learning and he has come to know that there is food and then I am going to eat it. So there is salivation and उसके मुंह से लार गिर रही है मतलब डॉग के. Or in the fourth picture, after conditioning, you see when the bell is there, when the bell is rung, the response of the dog is without seeing the food also. Salivation is occurring. So this is called as conditioned response. What is this? This is conditioned response. The saliva is coming out without seeing the food. So this is also a type of learning. So that's all in this part of my lecture. And in the another part of my lecture, we'll study more about the Pavlov experiment, where we'll study about the classical conditioning, physiological basis and molecular basis of classical conditioning. Then we'll also study about operant conditioning. In operant conditioning, we'll also study the feedback, feedback, applied and conditioning of visceral responses, alteration of bowel movements, HR and BP. We'll study all these topics in the next part of my lecture. So I thank you all here only. I again repeat my name. My name is Dr. Preeti Mathur, Associate Professor, Department of Zoology, SPC, Government College, Ajmer. I thank you. So students, be tuned with me. We'll again meet in second part. My email address, if any query, you can see my email address. It's given below my name. Thank you.